Hi there. It's very nice to meet you, baby human.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Hey folks, how's it going? Today we are talking about Where the Robots Grow. No, not The Wild Robot. That movie's actually good. I'm talking about this one. A movie that advertises itself as the first AI animated feature film, to which methinks is a complete fabricated lie.
You lied to me?
Oh, boo-hoo.
God, this is like a man-made horrors beyond our comprehension, folks, right? And also, there's drama. Yeah, there's some good news here. We got AI bros going at each other's throats over this one with the claim of who made the first AI animated movie. And I'm loving it. Let them fight, right? But as far as Where the Robots Grow, I had a viewer email me about this movie and its bogus claim. So I clicked on the video and yep, off to a good start. The likes, the dislikes, the comments are all disabled. Yeah, this one's gonna suck to watch.
That doesn't sound good.
AI filmmakers, quote unquote, are such a pain because they are usually not artists. They're tech bros racing to the bottom to sidestep the soul of artistry and grab the bag before anybody else. But for this movie, it seems we might have been deceived. Like, is this film actually the first animated AI movie ever? Or is that claim a full-blown lie? Well, I'm here to find out. And I'll also kick this stupid AI baby in its stupid AI face. So join me as we check out the first fully animated AI movie.
It's an upgrade.
But real quick, this video is brought to you by Fume, the leader in flavored air. Listen here, folks, I've got my fair share of bad habits. I'm not gonna name them. Don't make me. It can be difficult in social situations to avoid partaking. Well, a flavored air has become a leading alternative to help in ditching bad habits. And that is why I've become a huge advocate of Fume. Now, despite this gadget's appearance, Fume is not a vape. That means it contains no vapor and can be used anywhere. And there's no batteries involved either, so you can partake in Fume without ever worrying about needing to charge. Plus, there's no nicotine or toxic flavors involved. You just draw flavor into your mouth and not your lungs. This device is fully customizable, so you can choose from any of their delicious flavors like orange vanilla or crisp mint. I've tried both, they're excellent. And outside of being a great device for satisfying that oral fixation, it's also a sleek and stylish looking gadget that is also made to fidget with. And folks, let me tell you, as someone who deals with constant ADHD, like full on, not only does this gadget help me to ditch bad habits, but it also helps me to soothe anxiety with its magnets, snaps, and clicks. I've used it multiple times while recording videos. It is like part of my pack now. I got my phone, my wallet, my keys, and I got my Fume. So if you're a fan of fidget devices, then you are going to love having a Fume device in your arsenal. And if you already use Fume, what is your favorite flavor? Tell me in the comments, I want to know. Suggest something to me. Fume is backed by doctors in the US, and Fume is constantly investing in third-party studies to ensure the safety of their products. Gift the gift of better habits this holiday season with Fume. Head on over to tryfume.com/Saberspark and use my code Saberspark and get a free Fume topper when you order a journey pack. This topper is an excellent addition to gifting Fume. And if you're lucky, you can win one of these super duper awesome looking limited edition gold plated devices. Wait, they got those? I want one. Seriously, I want one. Give me one. Again, that's tryfume.com/Saberspark or hit up the QR code on the screen. Thanks again to Fume for sponsoring our video. And now back to the video. All right, before we get too deep in this rabbit hole, we need to actually define what AI is. Depending on what you think it is, the claim can be a little bit confusing. So in common parlance, for at least the last couple of years, ever since ChatGPT hit the mainstream, AI has been shorthand for generative large language models. That's probably what you think of when you hear AI. Type in text and it generates more text, generates an image, videos, music, so on. You know, generative AI. That's what we think of when we talk about AI. But artificial intelligence is kind of an inaccurate description because there's nothing intelligent about AI. This is all using what's called a large language model. It's basically super complicated and super advanced tech prediction. That's really all it is. You ingest a massive amount of data, and you make associations between the data and either other words or images or video files or whatever. Now, I'm oversimplifying this massively, but it uses this process called diffusion to translate visual noise into semi-coherent images based on the associations with the words you're talking about. So if you're able, you train a model on like a zillion pictures of an apple. And then when you type in apple and try and turn that noise into a picture of an apple, by trying to make that noise look as close to its reference of an apple based on all the apples that it has in its database. Yes, the future is scary. And so you can modify this by saying, for example, cartoon apple. And the model is like, okay, I have all these things, all these images of cartoons. I have all these images of apples. I'm gonna try and amalgamate that together and diffuse this noise back into what looks like a cartoon apple. These neural networks are good at taking a task that is repetitive but predictable and being able to automate that. A great example is Adobe has a fantastic tool for speeding up rotoscoping. So for those who don't know, rotoscoping in traditional films is when you're trying to isolate a subject from a background. And usually you're just going to kind of go in there and drawing around the shape, whether it's like a character or whatever, and crop it out of the frame and to try and replace it or put it somewhere else. This is incredibly time-consuming, but it's time-consuming in a way that is predictable. If you're trying to crop out a human from a background or isolate it in some way, you're always kind of cropping out the same general shape of a human figure in different poses and mood maneuvers through the scene. And so this is a task that really works well with neural networks. You can create a tool that knows to look for that humanoid shape and then automatically isolate it. And so you can use like a simple brush tool and just quickly brush over the human figure, and it will automatically select it and isolate it from the rest of the frame instead of you having to manually do it point by point. So when Tom Patton, the main filmmaker behind Where the Robots Grow, is saying that this movie is the first AI animated feature film, he is talking about AI in the more general sense, not strictly generative AI. Because when you watch this movie, it's immediately apparent. At first, when I saw it, I was like, no, there's no way that character model is AI. I refuse to believe it. And if you know anything about the quality of generative AI tools that we're dealing with right now, this is not solely generative AI. There are certainly sections of the film that are generative AI, unfortunately, like this stupid-ass baby, but it is not entirely generative AI. Take a shot for every time I say generative AI, by the way. And if for some reason you weren't aware from watching the film, by the time you get to the credits and you see that they have motion capture actors, 3D CG artists, and are citing assets from the Unreal Asset Store and Blender Marketplace, it becomes immediately apparent that there are other things being used in the production of this film besides generative AI tools. But the marketing tactic worked, right? The title of the video saying it's the first AI feature film is definitely eye-catching. Like, I would not be talking about this film if he had not pitched it as the world's first animated AI film. So unfortunately, yeah, it's working. He's getting more press because of this claim, no doubt. However, there's also been some pushback, specifically because some other guy a few months earlier made an entirely feature-length animated film with only generative AI. And that guy's name is Huru Jackson. Oh, we're about to get into some drama here.
You see, my brother believes he's a vampire.
What? Like as a fantasy?
No. Like really.
I'm just gonna say it. This is some of the worst stuff I've ever seen. If there was ever an example to show that purely generative AI is not ready for mass production, this guy's channel is it. Every single video he's put out, and hey, I'm sorry, dude. I know you only have 800 subs. Like, we really shouldn't even be talking about you, but yeah, all your videos are bad.
I'll get towels.
Ouch! I'm being canceled on a plane.
Bet she dumped your ass.
Well, if she does, I'll just hop on a kangaroo and bounce back into the dating
You'll
game.
be having a lot of time to do that when you're down under the weight of your breakup.
One of the things that I've mentioned multiple times about the whole generative AI craze and the people that are into it is that these people have no real sense of taste. They have no sense of taste whatsoever. And every single AI project I've seen is just a continued testament to that fact. This Godzilla thing in particular looks terrible. I hate it. So Jackson has made 2 full-length feature films using just generative AI. The animated one is called Dread Club Vampire's Verdict. That's a full 90-minute animated film. I cannot put enough quotes around the word animation, by the way. Then there's Window Seat, which is an hour-long live action film. But it's only using generative AI to create facsimiles of real actors. There were no actual people in the movie. It's all Gen AI. The visuals, voice acting, soundtrack, sound effects, the entire production top to bottom is done with Gen AI. Window Seat reportedly cost, you ready for this? $100 to make. Vampire's Verdict costs $400, according to Jackson himself. And yeah, they certainly both look it. These are bad. They are really bad. They make Where the Robots Grow look like Citizen Kane by comparison. There's just no cohesion to the visuals, no cohesion to the script. They're just not good. One of the things Tom Patton said in the interview he did about claiming that he was the first AI film is that he's done professional filmmaking in the past, and that this was the first AI film that could have passed the quality control test to get an actual film release. Now, I don't know if that's actually the case. We'll talk about the quality of the film in a second. However, compared to what has come before it, this is a massive step forward. And while I didn't have much respect for this position before watching Jackson's work, on the other side of it, I can certainly understand where he's coming from. These barely qualify as films, and I would not give him a watch. They are not worth it. But if you just want to watch the trailer and understand what I'm talking about, 45 seconds later, you will understand why these are barely films. They're not. They're garbage. But our boy Haru Jackson is super pissed off at Tom Patton for making these claims for Where the Robots Grow, because apparently it's stealing his thunder. Personally, if I were Jackson, I would just take the L and move on, because holy shit, these things are abominations. The less attention they get, the better. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out and how the AI enthusiast scene decides to write the history on this little subject.
Maybe that's the point of art. Art has to be better than reality.
Why don't you come with me to my tent? I want to see you pour your heart out.
But anyways, that's enough preamble. Let's get into the actual film itself. By the way, the film is the definition of bad. It is an incredibly boring movie. I had to take 3 breaks while watching it just because I was so bored. The movie is unfortunately 91 minutes long. In reality, it feels like it's 3 hours long. It's incredibly underwhelming in every possible way. Like, nothing really happens. There's no interesting cinematography. There are so many flat mid-shots, no creative storytelling, no creative visual language. The animation is passable because they're using the motion capture stuff. Just all of it is very mediocre. Now, one of the biggest limitations of using any consumer-level mocap tech like this is that you're going to have issues with limb tracking. There's a lot of jitter and noise introduced to performances. And even with the best tools available, you have to do some additional passes and manually clean up the motion so it doesn't look like all your characters are having a seizure. Of course, a way of sidestepping that process that's a lot less work would be to use stepped animation. Basically, instead of having smooth animation like a Pixar film, you have it look more like frame-by-frame animation. With fewer frames of animation, the effect of mocap imperfections is greatly reduced, if not outright removed entirely. And what do you know? All the characters in Where the Robots Grow use stepped animation. Now, I will say the environments and the character models look pretty good. At first, I was thinking that maybe the robots were downloaded from an asset store somewhere, since they're credited at the end of the film. But I thumbed through a couple of pages and I could not find any models that looked exactly like the models in the film. There are literally hundreds of pages of results, though. Even if they weren't custom made in-house, I think they were probably retextured, because all 4 of the robot models in the film had a very similar kind of visual style to the textures. They kind of have this faux pen and ink sort of textured look. It kind of reminds me of something out of like Borderlands. This is pure speculation. I don't know. They have a Blender artist in their credits as well, so I don't know how involved he was in the production. The reason I thought initially that the models were all gotten from an asset store is because there's one character that is completely different in a visual style from the robots. Yeah, check him out. There he is. He's this hologram, but it looks just like a cartoon, like a low poly Minecraft knockoff kind of character. It clashes with everything else in the film, so if I were to guess, at least he was a stock asset. I'm pretty damn sure. Either that or it was truly a left field creative choice. Now, I'm almost positive that all the environments are probably stock or based on stock assets and kit bashed together, since none of them have the pen and ink style. There's much more traditional PBR-style texture work on most of the environments. Those mesh better with whatever you can generate from AI for the establishment shots anyway, and provide some nice contrast to the character models, so it was probably a smart move to do that. It saves time and it ups the visual language. I hate that I have to give credit to the film occasionally. So let's talk about the plot of this movie, because there's no saving that. It's very confusing. It really feels like this movie started as a story with human characters, but they realized they couldn't do it with their generative AI. So they pivoted to robots instead. I say that because there's this element of like being born growing up and discovering your purpose, which are very universal themes. And these themes have been explored in fiction like multiple times before. It's eternal. That's super fertile ground for character study and stuff. But robots are an interesting choice to do that because robots generally don't embody those characteristics. Robots don't grow up because, yeah, you guessed it, they're machines. Robots don't have goals and dreams because they're built for a purpose. You, of course, have some wiggle room to play with, like wanting to have purpose versus being forced into doing something else. But the film flirts with that all the time, but it's just done in such a bizarre way, which, hey, we'll get to here in a bit.
A farmer? That's my purpose?
Isn't it wonderful, number 5?
The main robot is number 5. He eventually names himself Crew. He comes to this abandoned planet called Oracle. He's sent here by humans to be a farmer. He's supposed to go through this entire valley and plant tens of thousands of crops so they have some wheat for when the human colonists arrive on the planet. That's the framing device of why he's here. And for some reason, he has sentience, intelligence, and doesn't even know what he's supposed to be doing when he arrives on the planet. Now, perhaps I'm overthinking this, but if I was a colonist and I wanted to send some machines ahead of time, terraform the planet that I want to live on, it would be custom designed to do a function. Is send down a probe that has a machine in there that will just scan the area and just go up and down and plant seeds. I would not give my tool a sense of sentience, right? We make it like a tractor. We make tools custom designed to do this job more efficiently than our humanoid bodies can. Like Crew's walking out here with one little laser on his finger, taking a step at a time, planting one seed at a time. It takes him months to do this. You could have a machine custom designed for this, probably knock it out in an afternoon. So right off the rip, this entire concept is ridiculous because you have a sentient robot that wakes up, doesn't know what he's supposed to do while he's there, and has to learn these things, not from some preconditioned programming, mind you. You don't just write some software for him to use. He has to learn this from another piece of software called Pop. And Pop knows his path and knows that he's supposed to be a farmer and teaches him how to do this. So 5 is characterized as a child robot that needs to grow and learn from a paternal figure. It's certainly fine to have an artificial intelligence that needs to grow and learn. That's, again, fertile ground for storytelling. But it makes no sense in the context of what Crew is supposed to be. So anyways, taking this plot as it is, Crew quickly realizes, hey, he hates farming, and he wants something more. A very typical Disney-esque hero's journey. 5 ends up butting heads with Pop over this, since Pop tells him, well, no, our purpose is to serve these humans. Humans need help. One of the greatest things you can do in life is help other people. That's kind of like framed as the conflict theme of this movie. Self-sacrifice and service versus hedonistic pleasure. And I don't think the movie communicates this very well for reasons we'll get to here in a bit. So Crew, as someone who's still very naive, doesn't really understand the concept of service, especially considering he's serving people that he's never met before. He's never met humans, doesn't even know what humans even really look like. He's just helping on the promise that these humans need to be helped. So he decides to start sneaking out in the middle of the night and exploring the world and seeing what else is on the planet. Pop specifically mentioned that there are older robot models on the planet, and Crew specifically wants to find them. He considers them family. Again, why would you program your tool to desire family? Anyways, there's a force field that surrounds his valley, and he decides to sneak out at night when Pop is asleep. Why do they sleep? Why do they have to sleep? To be bedding down at night is because their circuits are overheating. I don't know why you try to cool down in front of a fire. Makes no sense. But regardless, Crew sneaks out of this force field and he tepidly puts his hand through it and nothing happens. He realizes he can simply pass through this force field and go out and explore the greater world. And this is where I noticed something very bizarre about this movie. This is a quiet moment. It's the middle of the night. Crew is trying to be silent and is very scared of this situation because he does not know if he's going to be able to do this. But the entire time this scene is happening, there is an incredibly loud, massive, aggressive orchestral backing that frames this as an extreme, high-energy scene when it's not.
Here goes nothing. 3, 2, 1. No.
It really should be silent or have a very subtle score that highlights the feeling of fear and quiet. It's just this whole soundtrack is just like constantly going at like a 10. And also the leveling is really bad too. It drowns out the voice actors. So while exploring the world, Crew meets 4, the previous robot that went down to this planet. And we learn after a while that there are a couple of other robots that have already been sent here. 4 has decided he does not want anything to do with the humans anymore. And the reason he doesn't want anything to do with the humans is because all robots have to obey the laws of robotics, which means they have to listen to humans and be their servants. And 4's perspective is that I don't want to be a slave to these humans. I want to be able to live my life and do what I want, which resonates with Crew because he's also looking for purpose right now beyond farming. And 4 is just here doing whatever he wants. Instead of listening to his Pop, he got rid of it a while ago and now just exists on this planet. He wants Oracle not to be a colony for humans, but a refuge for machines like him. Crew resonates with this idea of freedom because he's characterized as a young kid. And so they have a montage of the two bonding. Crew understands what music is and stuff, learns all these things he can do to express himself other than farming. He still farms during the day, but then sneaks out at night and hangs with 4. Turns out that 4 was just playing him. It's a sucker. He just wanted Crew's power source inside of his Pop. 4 manipulates Crew, kills Pop, and takes the power source. He doesn't want any humans arriving on Oracle at all. As soon as Crew is done and plants all these wheats, I guess, Pop is going to signal the humans to come to the planet and begin colonizing. And as soon as humans are around, the robots are going to be bound by the laws of robotics and serve those humans. As long as there's no humans on the planet, all of them essentially have free will, because these laws only kick in when there are humans actively around. So 4's perspective is, as long as we keep the planet free of humans, we have freedom. As soon as they arrive, we have to listen to them because we're programmed to do this. And this is a pretty compelling argument, right? I don't know why, as humans, you would make robots with a sense of sentience and this desire for freedom when you could just make the tools to serve a purpose. And it's not like the movie is really exploring this question, are robots sentient or not? There's no ethical ambiguity here of should we be treating these robots as tools versus people? No, not at all. It's shown very clearly as we follow these robots that they are sentient and they are essentially living. This is never up for debate. So the question of whether these machines should have freedom is, in my opinion, not a question at all. This answer is unequivocally yes, and that by definition, the only reason that Crew probably doesn't agree with them is he doesn't have the greater context of what he's giving up when humans arrive. He doesn't understand the concept of freedom or the ability to lose it because he's never experienced anything but freedom, from humans at least. If anything, the fact he's being forced into farming should make him sympathetic to 4, if anything else. It's interesting. You think this whole betrayal and conflict setup is baiting us into a discussion about the ethics of robotics because it's very much 4's entire motivation. They spend a lot of time hammering that fact home. And we do resolve it, we do, in the most bizarre way possible, which we'll get to here. So 4 betrays Crew, and we cut to years later. I guess they just never interact after that. And Crew just hangs out with 2. There's another robot that came earlier that's really not that advanced. Apparently his name is 2. Now 2 is like a dog. It seems like this is originally meant for human characters. The thing is, though, 2 isn't a dog robot. Despite that, he's clearly just as intelligent as 4 and Crew, yet they all treat him like an animal, with Crew even calling him boy, which he never met humans, so he has no frame of reference for how you should even talk to dogs or even know what a dog is. But it's Crew and 2, the boy and his dog. During the time skip, Crew grows up, and now his voice is deeper for some reason, even though he's a robot, go figure. And no time to think about that though. A ship crash lands on the planet, and it's like, oh, what's this? Turns out it was a ship that had a bunch of capsules on it that were gestating fetuses, and only one survived the crash. So there's one remaining human, and it's just a pod that has a baby just gestating inside of it. And the last nurse robot imprints its care credentials onto Crew and makes him the new caretaker, so this pod just follows him around now, saddled with this new responsibility. Crew and 2 have the idea to take Crew's landing ship he initially took to go back up to the main ship and orbit around Oracle and take them back to Earth. Because apparently there was a message attached to the pod saying Earth was uninhabitable. But we fixed it. It's fixed now. So everyone can come back home now. We don't need to populate Oracle. Don't worry about that. So Crew decides he's going to take this human back to Earth. There's a lot that follows, and again, strap in. Meanwhile, 4 finds out that Crew has this human with him. He is still really pissed at him because of their previous encounter, and 4 also hates humans. Since he doesn't want to be ruled by the laws of robotics, he chases Crew across the planet trying to kill him. Now, my question is, why the hell does 4 want to stop Crew at this point? If Crew wants to leave the planet and go back to Earth, that means the baby won't stay here, and 4 gets what he wants. So this entire back and forth of this plot makes no sense whatsoever, because there's no need for 4 to pursue Crew because he gets what he wants by default. He can do nothing and win. He wants this planet. The humans no longer want to colonize the planet. Crew is trying to leave, so just kick back and let him go, and you win. It's so stupid that there's any sort of conflict at the end of the movie. The only reasonable argument you could possibly make for 4 is that he's just pissed at Crew for screwing him over and he wants revenge, which is really stupid. So here we are at the end. You ready for this? Because the movie ends in one of the most bizarre ways I've ever seen in my entire life. 4 finds Crew at the ship, and right as they're about to have their final showdown, the human in the capsule finishes gestating and is starting to be born. And for reasons I cannot possibly comprehend, Tom Patton decides to write that in an effort to bond the robot with the human, they mimic the birthing pains in the caretaker robot as the child is born.
Be calm, strange little robot. You'll only make this harder on yourself.
How long does this go on for?
Oh, not long.
Good.
Sometimes.
Sometimes?
Sometimes it can take days.
So Crew is now in agony, feeling the process of childbirth as this kid is just finishing being born inside the capsule for no reason. It's so bizarre. This is even like an idea conceived by a human writer. Like from a meta perspective, it makes no sense. And even in the universe, why would you want to do this? Because again, Crew's a robot. It doesn't need to have an emotional connection. You can just program it to take care of the humans. In fact, you did that already, because that's what the law of freaking robots is all about. You know, the entire narrative thrust of the film? You don't need to create an emotional attachment. Robots are literally enslaved and designed to serve humans. They don't need to love them. They just need to serve them. This movie makes no sense, but this happens regardless. They're trying to have this epic fight sequence, which doesn't look good, by the way, because your motion capture with Wonder Dynamics will only get you so far. And every couple of seconds, Crew is like keeling over in pain because he's feeling like, you know, contractions and stuff from a childbirth, which doesn't make any sense. 4 is about to kill him, and Crew realizes that the child has been born. And because of that, both him and 4 are now bound by the laws of robotics. So Crew says to 4, hey, what are the laws of robotics? And he's like, you have to obey humans at all times. Unless you're a threat to a human, you never shut down. So Crew's like, are you a threat to the humans right now? And he's like, I am. So you have to kill yourself then, right? And yeah, 4 basically kills himself. And that's how Crew saves the day. He convinces his enemy to end his own life. And I'm like, that's certainly a take for your child's film, which is to tell the main villain to kill himself. So this whole angle we've been building of what do we do about these machines that clearly have sentience and are enslaved to humans is completely swept under the rug with 4's death. And that's not a bad thing we need to examine, apparently. The moral of this movie is to find purpose in monotonous servitude. Farming is honest work, and Crew should just be happy farming and serving humans. That's the point. I couldn't believe 4 is the bad guy straight up. His entire shtick about not wanting to be a slave was apparently wrong. I couldn't believe that the film would actually take such a stance. There was no way.
We've got visitors. Farm time. It'll be fun.
Oh man, not more farming.
But then I found AImation Studios' Medium account, where they actually talk about the characters and their thematic purposes. And that's exactly what they say. So here's an excerpt from the article titled 4, The Other Side of Crew's Journey. This is when he talks about number 4 and his character. Quote, number 4 represents a darker side of the human experience, one where fear of failure or change holds you back. His journey is about rejecting purpose, but in doing so, he creates a path of destruction. It's this tension that makes the clash between Crew and number 4 so intense and meaningful. He is the embodiment of missed potential, and that's what makes him such a compelling villain. Number 4 is a cautionary tale about what happens when you refuse to grow up. End quote. So this character that does not want to be a slave has been reduced to refusing to grow up. Using slavery as an allegory for maturity. What a take. Insane to think that would fly in any way. That's where this guy came down on it. So you gotta wonder then, okay, what does that mean about Crew then? Well, he has an article about Crew. Quote, in a universe full of mystery, Crew lands on Oracle, a desolate and barren planet, and quickly learns that his purpose is farming. At first, he hates the idea. How could farming on such a harsh, lifeless world have any meaning? But as time passes, Crew's journey becomes one of self-discovery and growth. Though the planet seems barren, he begins to see the potential in it and himself. Through patience and perseverance, Crew learns that sometimes the most overlooked tasks hold the greatest value. Over the years, he grows into the unlikely hero who will become humanity's last hope. End quote. This guy's blog is a real banger. He posted an article as I was writing this, talking about how he thinks all of humanity right now are like drone bees, unwittingly working to train the future of AI technology through all the data we generate in our day-to-day lives. Back to Crew though. Again, it's all about accepting your faith. Accepting servitude, growing up, finding purpose, and it's all so cynical. It's incredibly cynical when you read it that way. Doing what you hate in the service of others, despite the fact that it makes you miserable and you're literally a slave. You need to find meaning in your indentured servitude because guess what? That's what happens at the end of the movie. Crew makes 4 end himself, takes the human back to Earth, and he just lives as a servant to the humans. We don't see any real humans except for the end where we see the AI abomination of the baby a couple of years older, but like Crew's just continuing to farm on Earth, serving the humans, obeying the laws of robotics, a completely sentient being enslaved for all of eternity because I'm assuming he can't die as a robot or can be easily repaired. But yeah, that's it. That's the movie. It's freaking incredible that they thought this was a good idea. For the thematic messaging alone, I cannot recommend Where the Robots Grow. Ironically, the one part of the film that was done entirely by humans that is the worst part, not the animation, it's not the voice acting, it's the script.
My name is Crew. My name is Pop. How about we go on an adventure together?
the irony is, again, palpable. If you want to watch a movie about robots, go watch The Wild Robot from DreamWorks instead. At least that one has a good story, great animation, great everything across the board, and most of all, heart. It makes sense. That's how you use robots to tell a story about robots and nature. Your programming versus love, and learning, and growth, not accepting your life as a servant. So overall, all this being said, the tagline of the first AI movie was probably used for marketing terms more than anything else. Like, this entire film is much closer to a traditional low-budget film than an AI film. They leverage a lot of machine learning in this film, but not strictly generative AI. Where the Robots Grow is an abysmally boring and terrible movie. It just reinforces my sentiment that those who wave the flag of AI are typically the polar opposite of inspired and talented artists. They are not here to create thought-provoking or sincere work or pieces of art. They're here to create content. And right now, it's a race to the bottom, and it's only going to get worse as time goes on. But hey, there's hope. In the meanwhile, keep supporting those who are fighting the good fight. Real artists who actually give a damn about their craft. They are out there, and they need your support more than ever. Hopefully, this clown circus of a government of ours will pass some legislation and someday put this AI thievery in its place. But hey folks, those are just my overall thoughts about this cursed film. What do you all think? Tell me down below in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.